President, Vice-Chancellor, ladies and gentlemen, the Vice-Chancellor and the President, in fact, I think eloquently underlined the fact that your careers, the graduates today, will be a constant learning process. I learned something in the last 2 hours, and that was never put yourself in a position where at 5 o'clock in the afternoon you come on to speak after a charismatic global diversity champion and a Bollywood film star. The only problem, I would say, is that I think I do intend to work till I'm about 100. I'm not sure I shall ever get a chance to put that piece of learning into effect again, but never mind. In preparing for today's ceremony, I cast my mind back to how I felt when I was, like you, today's graduates, at the beginning of my career. And I recalled clearly a conversation which I had when I just started work, in fact, at Honorary, where I was to spend the next 30 years. And I was assigned to work for the then senior partner of the firm, who was a very able, courteous, and prominent corporate lawyer of his day. And one Friday, early on, he looked at me and said with some feeling, God, I'm glad I'm not starting now. Now, at the time, I was rather puzzled by this comment, but 25 years later, I found myself sitting in his place as senior partner of the firm. At the end of a long week, looking at a legal world of growing regulation, growing technological challenges, increasing competition, never-ending demands from clients. And his words came back to me. He had met all those same challenges, but in his case, it was the telex. And if you want to know what a telex is, I suspect you've got to ask, it's either me or the president are the only two who will know. It was the telex shattering the cozy world of communication by letter. It was the end of the old world, and some of you may find this hard to believe, where partnerships had been limited to 20 partners. Some firms then were even growing so fast that, crikey, they had over 30 partners. And it was the time when American firms were coming to London, and they were changing attitudes to conflicts and client service and business culture. And I realized that my preoccupations were all the same ones as his. Yes, the internet had replaced the telex, and we were looking at 400 partners rather than 40, but the challenges were all similar. And I mention that for several reasons. First, it was these challenges that in fact gave me a career in which I reinvented myself a number of times without, in fact, ever leaving the firm I started with. When I began, I thought I was pursuing a career as an M&A lawyer. In the event, I ended up running a small business when I ran my first team in the firm as a young partner. I ended up starting an environmental law practice because I complained to the then senior partner in about 1988 that the firm needed one, but found nobody else volunteered to set it up, so I did. I ended up running a slightly bigger business when I was given charge of the firm's corporate group, and there I had to develop marketing skills and strategic thinking skills. And all of that without leaving the one firm. But crucially, I ended up realizing rather late in the day, when I became senior partner of the whole global firm, that professional services is all about fulfilling the aspirations of the people who help to deliver those services, which will be all of you and others like you, and that they need to see the point of what they are doing. And that then took me into the world of what I call the law of everyday life, which deals with housing issues, family issues, debt issues, benefit issues, mental health issues, and human rights. And I came to realize, perhaps slightly late, that the law is in fact at the heart of everything. It is essential for business. Trade and commerce depend on it to deliver a framework of predictability, probably now more than ever. But the law is also at the heart of everyday life. Citizens rely on the law to protect them from government, and to protect them from the arbitrary exercise of power, wherever it may come from. And I realized also then that I was, not for the first time, swimming against the tide, because I saw around me a world which urged people to specialize in ever-narrowing areas of law. I saw a world which said that commercial law is a separate universe from the law of everyday life, and that the two had no connection. And yet I ended up running a very big business which had over 400 partners, had £1 billion annual turnover, and had 5,000 staff around the world. But I knew that in order to thrive, the firm had to articulate the connections between the business world and the law of everyday life, because its own staff, its own people, wished it to make those connections. And if the firm did not make those connections, who else would? And I realized then that professional duty to society and self-interest are remarkably well aligned. So I return to my original thought and conclude that I rather wish I was starting again. Why do I say that? I say that because the law is central to social welfare and to civil society, but it is also at the heart of business and international trade. And because of that, I've been fortunate to pursue careers in private practice, business, civil society, and the public sector. But most importantly, the great public issues of our day, in which I would include the environment, artificial intelligence and its use, privacy, the rule of law, globalization, they will all be shaped by the ways in which the law evolves to meet them. And you will be part of that shaping. And I would urge you to occupy as many of the different areas of legal activity as you can over the next 30 years. The barriers which are often created between different areas of the law are artificial, and you should try to ignore and overcome them. So this is an exciting time to be embarking on a legal career. But the point about the law is that it will always be an exciting time to do that. And in 30 years' time, one of you will be standing here. And I hope you will be able to reflect then that the pace of change that appears so swift to us in 2019 will then be viewed as rather pedestrian, and that the really interesting challenges are still and always will be the ones that lie ahead. So in closing, I should say that my predecessor as senior partner, who made that comment wearily to me all those years ago, in fact remained in touch with me until the end of his life. And no one was more interested than he was in the latest developments, and no one gave me better advice than he did on how to approach them. So even he remained interested in starting again. I'm honored as an alumnus of the University of Law to be sitting amongst a group who have all these challenges and opportunities ahead of them. And I do rather wish I could join you and do it all again. Good luck, and thank you for listening.